What's up, guys? It's Danny from the Lassercast, and I am on the 28th floor of a hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey on vacation. My daughter and her friend are in the pool. My wife is down there watching them, so I decided to take the time to come up to the hotel room and do a book review, because that's what you do on vacation, is you sneak away from your family to do book reviews for your YouTube channel. And the book that I'm reviewing today is The Future Was Now, MADMEN, Mavericks, and the Epic Sci-Fi Summer of 1982, written by Chris Nashawaty. I was lucky enough to go to a screening of Blade Runner: The Final Cut at the Nighthawk Prospect Park in Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago. Chris Nashawaty was there, selling his books and signing them and talking to people before he introduced Blade Runner, and then he was talking to people after during the book signing. Really cool guy, and this book, it flies by. If you are somebody like me, I am born in 1982, and all I kept thinking of reading this book was, man, what I would not have given to be 7 to 10 years older. If I could have been at the age I was in, say, between 1988 and 1992, which are really my formative years of coming to my fandoms, whether it be horror, whether it be science fiction, whether it be sports, comic books. My fandoms basically developed from the time I was about 5.5 years old until I was about 10 years old, and they have evolved since then. And had I been that age in the summer of 1982 and gotten a chance to live through the era that this book describes, I would have absolutely loved it. If I had a time machine, that's probably what I would do. Kill Hitler as a baby, sure, but go back to the summer of 1982 and be able to watch Blade Runner, The Thing, Conan the Barbarian, Tron, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Poltergeist. What am I missing? I'm missing, The Road Warrior. And of course, how could I possibly forget E.T.? If I could be during that summer, and that's basically what this book is about. Chris Nashawaty, he basically covers this absolutely incredible 2 months where in the summer of 1982, between June and August, those 8 science fiction horror blockbusters all came out in theaters. And what he does in the book is he gives you some really great context. He goes into the filmmakers in the late 70s and what they were doing leading up to those big films of 1982. So for Spielberg, of course, you get some Jaws, and you get Close Encounters. Then for Ridley Scott, you get Alien and, the Duelists, and then obviously him taking Alien and creating the masterpiece that was Alien. Basically, the book does use Star Wars, May 25th, 1977, as that time, that's like the linchpin of this book, where it's like that was an event. Star Wars is an event, and it changed the way that directors, producers, executives viewed science fiction, viewed blockbuster filmmaking, and what they were going to allow their directors to do in the future. So again, you get like Spielberg post Star Wars going into Close Encounters. You get Ridley Scott post Star Wars going into Alien. You get John Milius and Arnold Schwarzenegger becoming a name in America with Pumping Iron. You get Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was basically a critical disaster, but made enough money to justify its existence. And you get all of these context situations that lead up to filmmakers being handed these and creating these 1982 blockbusters. The book really focuses on E.T., Blade Runner, The Thing, but it really does give equal time and treatment to each of the filmmakers and each of the movies. And because of that, because of the way it flows, the book just flew by. Something about me personally, I have become, as my adulthood has continued onward, I've become much less of a reader, especially physical books. Since the pandemic, I've become a huge reader or listener of Audible, and I've probably gone through 20 to 30 books on Audible, many of them horror, sci-fi related, many of them Stephen King related, since the pandemic. So for me to pick up a hardcover book and blow through it physically, page by page, is somewhat of a feat, and this book flies by. Now, yes, it helps that it is about a subject that I am infinitely curious about, and these are movies that I grew up with and that I absolutely love. And there's so many great stories, and some sad stories, and some exciting stories, and funny stories about the filmmaking of these films, and what they led to, both in the immediacy. So, like, for instance, of the 8 movies discussed, The Thing is my favorite. John Carpenter's The Thing is probably my first or second favorite horror movie of all time. And you look at, John Carpenter, of course, in Halloween, puts The Thing from Another World on TV. This was his dream project. He finally gets to make it, and it is a critical and a financial disaster. And John Carpenter, the author Chris Nashawaty, goes into like how John Carpenter had become like Universal's little golden boy, and he had a studio office, and he was like, I can't wait, now I'm in the studio system. And if you know anything about John Carpenter in the last 40 years, it's that he has nothing but disdain for the studio system, and he's made most of his films post The Thing have been outside of the studio system. Many of them, self-financed by himself and by other production companies. And that all started with The Thing, and he really became down on himself, and it really affected his career. And it's, as somebody who grew up loving, I'm part of what the book describes. I am part of that next wave of sci-fi and horror fan who found The Thing on VHS, who found The Thing on cable TV. And I never knew as a kid, when I first saw it, if you would have said to me, oh, that everybody hated that movie when it came out, I would have said, you're crazy. It's amazing. It's one of the greatest films of all time. What are you talking about? And to read the loathsome reviews that it got from some big name critics that, you know their names, it's really disappointing, and it's really upsetting to read that, but it's part of what makes the book great. The counterpoint of that, of course, are movies like E.T., which is one of the biggest blockbusters of all time and solidified Steven Spielberg as the greatest filmmaker of that era. And then you go into the other filmmakers. You look at a movie like Tron, which today is basically the forefather of what would become Disney Pixar. And it was such a shot in the dark, such a grab at a new technology. The director of Tron, I don't think directed another feature film, maybe one other movie his entire career. But the effect of Tron generations later is still heard. There's another Tron movie coming out. Ridley Scott is still making films today. He's still making big budget blockbuster science fiction movies today. Prometheus, Alien Covenant. He just produced Alien Romulus. And Blade Runner was a commercial disaster and a critical bomb. And to read that, given what we know in 2024, 42 years later, that these, especially The Thing and Blade Runner, are two of the greatest films of all time. They're two of the most celebrated and beloved films of all time. And to read in detail how almost universally despised they were, is fascinating. And the book is fascinating. It flies by. I cannot recommend it enough. If you are a cinema lover, if you are a science fiction fan, first and foremost, if you are somebody who loves going to the movies, if you're somebody who wants to know more about the movie making industry, or if you love behind the scenes stuff, if you were somebody who in the early days of DVD would buy DVDs that had special behind the scenes featurettes because you wanted to see the making of stuff, this is the book for you, because it's basically reading all of that behind the scenes stuff. And this is from a guy who, you know, he's been working in this industry for years. He wrote for Entertainment Weekly, and he has written other books. He wrote a book about the movie Caddyshack that I might want to revisit, the movie Caddyshack, and then read that book because of how interesting this book was. But for fans of this channel, if you're a horror fan, if you're a sci-fi fan, if you grew up loving the films of Spielberg and Carpenter and Ridley Scott, if you like Mad Max, if you like Conan, Tron, Poltergeist, there's a great section of this book that addresses the whole controversy of, did Spielberg direct Poltergeist? Was Tobe Hooper basically a shadow director on his own movie? You know, and the book really goes into that controversy. And again, it makes you feel bad, and it makes you feel genuine emotion as you're reading this, especially if you're a lover of these movies and a lover of this material. So again, Chris Nashawaty's The Future Was Now, Mad Men, Mavericks, and the Epic Sci-Fi Summer of 1982. The book's available on Amazon. Check it out. I cannot recommend this enough. I would love if Chris Nashawaty would want to join, come on the Lassercast for an interview. I think that would be great. I'd love to talk to him about this book and some of the stories that he wrote about. But anyway, this has been Danny. I'm going to go back to my beautiful vacation, probably go down and see my family again before they get out of the pool. And this has been Danny from the Lassercast, and I'll see you guys very soon.